Today we have our second episode to the topic demand gen for mid-market and enterprise for complex products and high tickets. Hi Julius, how's it going?
Ben, it's quite a rush. Final week before Christmas. It's kind of killing me, but at the same time, it's kind of fun. I'm gonna miss it in January. It's lots to do. Clients have lots to do. We want to get out to do this done. It's exciting, but
Everybody wants his annual goals.
tiring. Yeah. What about you? You just came back from New York, actually. How was that?
Oh, I loved it. It was actually my first time in New York, and specifically the Christmas season. I think it's really special. I visited a training, which was also great,
Yeah.
and yeah, I can only recommend going to New York to everyone. It
Yeah,
was
nice. And is there something you take away? Is there something that inspired you from the American way of doing business, or?
100%, 100%. So the training was more about finance, but we also spoke a lot about building brand equity,
Yeah.
which is typically or very often undervalued when you look at the balance sheet of a
Mhm.
company. And this was really very, very interesting. I had some great discussions with the professor from Columbia Business School. It was really, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Can only recommend doing these executive education programs.
Yeah, definitely. No, sounds exciting. Maybe you can bring some coachings for us next year for that. Less from the finance side, but
For brand equity,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Yes, that's a
Yeah.
good idea. We should do that.
yeah. But let's start. We've had the last episode on demand gen 2 weeks ago, so maybe Ben, if you can remind ourselves what makes demand gen so powerful for B2B, and especially now in the age of AI everywhere, you can just pump out ads. Why is it, especially now, so powerful?
Well, B2B advertising, or let's say B2B sales and marketing, both together, they don't really follow a simple emotional impulse. So buyers can't really, or in most cases, a buyer is not really seeing an advertisement and says, "Oh, I'm going to order this."
Mm-hmm.
Well, specifically for high tickets, that's not the case. And sometimes the buyers are, or even the ones who use the solution at the end of the day, are not even emotionally triggered by purchasing something,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, it's a complete different game in this case. And when we look back in time, trade fairs have been really, really successful. And this is not a big surprise because we are humans. And what we like is we like to go to other places. We like to have 2 or 3 days off the office.
Mm-hmm.
We like to have a beer with our colleagues after work in whatever city in the world it is where the trade fair takes place. And this is really the core why most people go to trade fairs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can connect it to making business. And obviously, this connection is really powerful. So I'm not saying that trade fairs are just for drinking beer. They can be a really big driver for success.
Yeah.
But the reason why a single person, not the whole company, but a single person is very likely interested to go to this trade fair
Mm-hmm.
or to the specific event or a round table or whatever it is because they are interested in seeing the world and exploring something new. And in digital channels, this was quite undervalued over the last years. So we see that demand gen strategies were actually growing, and when we look at, let's say, the average strategy 5 years ago, it was, okay, there's a white paper, we have a specific topic, you can download it, and then we're shooting emails until you buy, which is, if you generate a lot of leads, that can work. So I'm also not saying that this was kind of a poor strategy, but the strategy was mostly derivated from the fact that competition was much lower.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we have to do in a proper modern demand gen? First of all, we have to catch someone's attention and give him some great educational or inspirational content, and we just follow a comparable playbook. We still want to bring joy and entertainment to someone.
Yeah.
Like a lot of marketers and a lot of managers and companies, they thrive to become better, and they actually want to do a great job,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to get educated. So for them it's a pleasure to read great information about how they can improve their business and how they can improve their manager role and all these things. So, and this is exactly where demand gen is currently heading to.
So the human factor for you is the key.
100%. Marketing is for humans. Like we see a lot of clients approaching us, and I always, or very often, I also do a tiny audit of a company within their current approach of their go-to-market strategy. And what I see often is that the creative strategy and the campaign strategy is pure selling. Like they ignore whatever someone could be interested in, and they just say, here's a product, buy it, and maybe they add like 2 or 3 bullet points why they should buy it. And obviously no one cares about that. I'm also not saying that it's not valuable at all. I mean, you can still build up a brand, and maybe at a later stage someone will face a specific challenge anyway. So you know, okay, I'll be on top of their mind if they make a decision at a later stage. So I'm not saying that just pure, let's call it digital billboard advertisement. So what you know from the billboards, like you have one billboard ad and you just roll it out for 1 month and everyone sees it, everyone passes through for sometimes and remembers it. I'm not saying that this is a bad idea, but it's quite difficult to educate someone, to inspire someone, to catch the attention for more than 1 or 2 times when passing by. And that's in general, like quite a lot. What we see, it's really effective to focus on the person and not just on, bam, that's us. Now buy something.
But I guess in an enterprise setting, and I think we've touched on this last time, it's not just one person. There's a whole group of different stakeholders. They all can take different roles. They can support you. They can block you. How do you... I think you've had a slide for this last time, exactly. What different roles are there in a typical enterprise setting that you have to target and get on your side?
I mean, that's probably kind of a misconception to say that there are these specific roles and you can find them in an enterprise or in a larger company. But anyway, you will probably have a champion. So the champion is the one who internal advocates for you. Without a champion, it will be really, really tricky to sell something. So this is one role that you will probably always have. You will also have some types of blockers. Like this can be the purchasing department. This can be the CFO. The blockers are typically not the ones who really see the benefit in applying that, and they don't really see the value, or it's maybe they understand it technically, but it's difficult for them to really grasp
it's too far away from them.
Exactly, it's far away from them. They just see costs appearing somewhere at the horizon. So those are actually the ones that I would focus on most. I mean, obviously you can also see the power users, the partners, the influencers, the decision maker. It's great to think about if it's possible to kind of point these people in a specific buyer committee. But in general, there's not a one-fits-all setup. Sometimes also depending on the deal size. Let's say you have a 50K ticket and you're selling it to enterprise clients. It's very unlikely that the CEO of the company will actually be involved in this. 50K for an enterprise, it's not enough. It can be, but he will probably not be involved in that. But when you want to sell 5 million to an enterprise client, it's definitely likely that the CEO will see what's going on and then he will approve this, or maybe he even has to sign it. So it strongly correlates with the deal size. It strongly correlates with how fundamentally you actually also change the process in a company.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you want to implement a new ERP system.
Yeah, that's big.
An ERP system, you will have a lot of blockers. You will have probably some champions. Maybe you even have external parties who are implementing that or advocating for it or against it.
Another solution. Yeah.
So that's really, really tricky. I mean, in January, you can say the more impact something has,
Mm-hmm.
the more difficult it's also to understand the buyer committee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that would also then influence your decision to say in your strategy, okay, we should put this much effort on just the champions, or as the deal size increases, we would spend much more targeting CEOs, decision makers. Or how do you make this decision, where to spend your money or your effort in a demand gen strategy?
So the budget's actually, the budget split on what personas in this case, that's also tricky to say. I mean, there are two sides in making it more likely to close a deal. First one is you need to prepare the arguments for the champions to advocate for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are far more expensive compared to all the competitors, you need to prepare the arguments and make them really simple to understand for the champion.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to prepare that in general for your go-to-market strategy.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. But catching all these, let's say, questions up front to support the champion is probably very, very helpful. So let's go back to the ERP system implementation. If your ERP system is capable of far better functionalities compared to the existing ERP system, it's probably very good to highlight this up front so that the champion has it quite easy to advocate for you. I mean, that's the number one thing.
Yeah.
The champion is he is actually your champion. So you need to make him the champion as well. So and looking at the targeting, you can definitely include in many scenarios you can include C-level or mid management.
Mm-hmm.
But also that there isn't this one fits all solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, what's typically a good approach is to back engineer. So if let's say you have to orchestrate the go-to-market strategy for the ERP system in the UK, what you can do is you can look at the existing customer base, you can talk to existing customers, you can trace back, okay, who was involved in maybe some pitches or some product demos, who was involved in the purchasing department, and then you can kind of back engineer for a handful of deals or maybe 10, 20 deals who was actually involved. And what's also really helpful is to do interviews on that. So if you have existing customers, to dig very deep into who did the decision, who was internally actually advocating for the implementation, who was probably a blocker. So digging really deep into the data that you have is probably the best idea. Sometimes I see clients that have these super sweet targeting setups where they say, oh, we have to target the CEO, we have to target the CFO, we have to target the blah, we have to target the he, but it's pure gut feeling. You can do this in an early stage, just because you don't have a better approach, but it's very likely just, let's take the marketing department. So if you want to sell to a marketing department, let's say one of these shiny new LLM tracking systems where you can trace how many searches you have and all these things. if you want to sell this, you can. It's not that expensive, but let's say it would be 10K, 20K per month for a large account. You can just target everyone in the marketing department.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at some enterprise accounts, you probably have in just one account 500 to 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So is it really likely that this is the audience? For a first start, maybe.
Yeah.
But you can probably also break it down far more and look, okay, maybe someone is working in SEO. Well, that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone is working in field marketing. Probably not so interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you have your targeting and you have your buyers committee, I guess this connects quite well to our episode last week of personas, right? Everyone in an organizational setting as well has needs and wants. The COO maybe wants to improve process speed. COO wants to speed up digitalization across the whole company. CFO wants to keep costs down.
Yeah.
That's another core step, right? To think about these different needs and how you can fill them and message towards them.
Definitely. I think you can also make it far too granular.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what you just described was actually sending either different messages to all of these people
Mm-hmm.
or sending all messages
Like a
That-
smoothie.
that are relevant for everyone to all
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Both of these ways are very tricky because sending all of the message would mean you have to send some rubbish that is not really relevant for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just say, okay, I'm tailoring everything that everyone is kind of drawing his own picture of my company,
Yeah.
which would obviously in first place it sounds good, but I think that's not really the best approach. You want to have a clear image of what you actually do. Your positioning needs to be very precise,
Mm-hmm.
and you should catch the biggest blockers in general. You should catch them,
Mm-hmm.
but focusing on the tiny details is probably more the job of the sales department.
Okay. Yeah. No, sounds good. Let's maybe go into detail. How do you actually set up a demand gen process or strategy? What are the steps?
So there's also not this one approach that suits
Mm-hmm.
for every campaign setup, but I do really like the separation into these three core phases. The first one is you focus on demand for content. The second one is demand for a solution, and the third one is demand for vendor.
Mm-hmm.
Before talking about specific types of advertisements, I would like to shortly summarize these three phases because they are completely aligned with the individual person.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not designed to convince the whole company at once, but they are designed to actually kind of capture the champion up front. So capture the champion is probably the best and easiest way to describe the process. And the champion is typically interested in first place to get a better understanding of a specific topic or to find a solution for a specific challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you really have a big problem in your accounting with outstanding payments from your clients.
Yep.
That could be for an accountant his day-to-day life. So the only thing he's really worried about is that the clients will not pay their bills, and it's a big problem for him. Like he's really annoyed by that. He would prefer to structure their accounting more and focus on the things that really make a difference and that are not that annoying and repetitive. So the first and easiest way to catch the attention of this single individual would be maybe for an ERP system or for whatever who has the solution, would be to start with simple thought leader ads or simple advertisements that maybe promote ways how he can decrease the outstanding payments by with different options. It shouldn't be immediately, okay, here's our solution.
Yeah.
It can be you can have factoring, you can improve your process with an ERP, you can do blah blah blah. Like, and this is really informational content.
Yeah.
It's really helping him to understand his options better.
Yeah.
And he will be thankful if it's well prepared content to learn from that.
And it has to be expert content, right? It can't just be...
Not necessarily. It can be everything. It can be a white paper. I would recommend not to have white papers gated at the moment, because actually white paper is partially very often advertisement. So I don't expect someone to really enter his personal information to download a white paper. And sometimes it makes sense to have these gated contents, but for this example, it can be probably the better approach to say we have one white paper which is not gated and you can just download it.
So it can be AI written or generated as long as it's fresh content that's bringing value to people.
That's a good question. I like the question. I would definitely not recommend to write it with AI.
Yeah.
I think that AI can be an interesting starting point for the white paper or for the case studies or whatever. I think AI can also do the fine tuning if you want to ensure that you don't have any grammatical errors.
Yeah.
But I really see this a lot that companies just say, okay, AI, just write a white paper and afterwards we finish it a little bit and that's it. Think about it like this. It's the first impression you make. So first question, if you really solve a pain, how likely is it that you will have an outstanding white paper that is at least a little bit pointing into the direction of your product? It shouldn't be, okay, here's our product, buy it, but it should be understandable why that's one solution. It's not necessary that it's the only solution. So I think that a white paper shouldn't be completely AI generated.
Fair enough. Okay, so that's the first phase. What's then the second?
Demand for a solution. That's the second phase. So first one is someone is interested in learning, wants to be inspired. There are a lot of possibilities to do that. Let's say this person, and we are still talking about a single person, already had some touch points up front, and you can build an audience with all these people that had already engaged with your content. So they already understand that there is something they can improve in their day-to-day life. There are options how they can decrease the outstanding invoices. Factoring, implementing an ERP system, whatever. Just withdrawing it from the accounts. There are different ways to solve it. And they understand that. They know that there are ways. The second phase is you actually have the demand for a solution. Like this person now understands that there is a solution for his or her problem. And the next step is, as a marketer, obviously you want to promote your solution. You want to explain why is your solution better than the other one. Now, if we are the ERP software marketers, obviously we want to promote this. So we can explain either with case studies, white papers, before and after assets. So let's say we have one of our clients implemented our ERP system and they reduced outstanding invoices by 80%.
Yeah.
That's a number. So you will remember that if you are already aware of your pain point, and then you see these advertisements, it can be that you resonate with them.
Yeah.
You understand that they solved actually one of your problems as well.
Yeah.
So you're building up a lot of trust already. But it's not fully about immediately positioning yourself to sell. Like, you still want to ensure that at this point, it's mostly about arguing why implementing an ERP system is a solution.
Yeah.
There are different ERP systems. So if you just jump to the last step and say, buy our ERP system now, then you still don't give the right arguments why it's your ERP system.
Yeah.
And at the stage of creating demand for a solution, it's really crucial to think about the USPs of your solution. Because this is a crucial part for positioning yourself. If your ERP system has, let's say, a beautiful brand and a beautiful UX, and maybe you have a lot of APIs, so what else could you have as an ERP system? This is quite tricky. Maybe you have a nice mobile app. Let's just say, yeah, I don't think that a mobile app for an ERP system is really important, but
yeah, or different industry features and apps that you can.
But let's say you can really highlight your USP.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you compare different options, or if you already outline your USP and why it's important when comparing, this is what someone will keep in the back of their head. So it's crucial to give at least a rudimentary understanding of what are the options and why are the options where you are particularly good at important. So this is the second phase. Obviously, if someone interacts with these assets or with these campaigns, that's perfect, because then you understand, okay, we have someone who understood that there is a pain point, who understood that there is a solution for that.
Yeah.
He's actually interested in finding a solution. And the last phase is this person, and probably also some others from the group, will be interested in finding a vendor. Now, selling to a company isn't always super straightforward. A lot of companies have to make a tender. They have to make it because their shareholders force them to do it. They can't just say, oh, we want to have this solution, let's get it. So demand for a solution, if we go to the second phase again, this is crucial, because if you can position yourself with the right unique selling points that are promoted well, it's very likely that this will be super beneficial in demand for a vendor. Why? Because they write down the requirements. And if they say we want to have a mobile app,
suddenly that's
beep.
Yeah.
You have a mobile app, the other one's not.
Yeah.
So this is why demand for solution and demand for vendor are crucially connected to your positioning. You could even start the positioning already in demand for content. But obviously there are also things in the demand for vendor that are not really relevant in all these phases before. So speaking about the pricing or having a demo, these are all things that are just not relevant for someone who isn't really interested in making it more concrete.
Interesting. For each of these phases, how does it behave? Should this be organic? Should this be paid? Should it be a mix of all? Does it depend?
It depends. It depends. So there are, of course, some approaches that are really nice and scalable.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about LinkedIn is a really good channel. It's super powerful. Why? We have a great targeting. We have great remarketing options. So if someone already engaged with our content, we can do a remarketing. That's crucial.
Yeah.
Let's say someone just expanded the description of a thought leader ad. That's someone who is really maybe already moving from demand for content to demand for solution.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very important for us to know.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn is probably the number one channel to start with, but you can have angles that are completely different. So sometimes you can start on Meta.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can start with trade fairs. You can start with offline activities to really pull someone in. The playbook that might sound super outdated, you're sending newsletters and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it's also a good approach to do this. It always depends on how much competition you have, how long are the deal cycles, what are your USPs.
Yeah.
So there isn't this one fits all solution, but in general, following this approach in these three phases is very likely working much better than just trying to sell immediately.
Mm-hmm. And are there ways to get the sales department involved in the earlier phases as well, or would you say sales still stays in the third phase of typical?
I mean, sales and marketing always go like in a balance. If you don't invest in marketing, your sales has to do really heavy lifting.
Yeah.
They have to do outbound and all these things where typically sales is like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's not really delivering good return on invests in most of the cases. So if possible, I would recommend everyone to focus on inbound and not on outbound.
Yeah.
Why? Inbound marketing allows you to do a great positioning. Like you can really position yourself. You can engineer all of these touch points so that your positioning is very precise.
Mm-hmm.
If you do outbound, it's like, I open the door, here I am, now you want to buy something.
Mm-hmm.
Positioning is really tricky. I mean, actually, it's not just tricky, you are damaging your positioning with this approach.
Mm-hmm.
For some companies, that might be a great idea. But for 99%, it's a very bad idea to do outbound. So my recommendation is definitely not to have sales for the first touch point.
Mm-hmm. Because it's too pushy. In other words, you're trying to be the salesman, trying to sell you something before even asking you about or educating about the possible need. I'm just thinking that could be like it could come up in a natural-ish conversation, or.
But what could be the natural-ish conversation? I mean, think about all the brands that are selling costly goods. You can also take them for B2C. That's exactly the same. Do you think at Burberry someone would be in front of the store and say, "Hey guys, someone wants to buy a handbag"?
Yeah, that's true.
Probably not. That's someone at the market who shows socks 20 cents, because he really needs to sell these things and he's so cheap. So positioning yourself with outbound, you can see that sometimes in the finance industry.
Mm-hmm.
But the finance industry is shaped quite different. Let's say you really have a good fund, like it's a big and well-known fund with a good performance, and someone can just validate that on the web. You just type in the name of the fund and you see, oh, they have a great performance. then it can be an idea that someone actively approaches you and says, "Hey, I'm sales manager for company X." Probably but then also look at these salespeople. They have to look very good. They have to speak very good. They are the first touch point. So these touch points are incredible engineered to be performing well.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I learned something there. Can you put these 3 phases on a timeline for us? How long should each phase take, or does it depend on the company size, I guess?
I would always there's an indirect thing that I'm recommending also to our clients. Look at the deal cycle of a company. If a deal cycle is 12 months, then planning with about the same or 1.5 times the deal cycle is a very good idea.
Yeah.
So you should plan 12 to 18 months if your deal cycle is 12 months. Why do I recommend this? There isn't a one-fits-all solution for that. So it's possible that you can do all of this, all 4 phases in 3 months.
Yeah.
That's possible, but it's unlikely. So looking at the deal cycle always gives quite a good understanding of how complex is the average buyer committee, like how many concerns do they have, how many rounds of approvals do they need, and this also explains how likely it is that someone will, the champion, approach his team and say, "Guys, we need this solution." The champion is not interested in coming up with a crazy idea that at the end of the day will decline from everyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would recommend planning with about 1 to 1.5 times the average deal cycle, and that's probably a good estimation.
Okay.
And obviously, starting with a pilot project, that's really important. I mean, rolling out one of these formats, if the touch points and the assets are not orchestrated well, it can be that the whole setup is super crappy. And continuing with a crappy setup, you can run this forever and it will not deliver any results. And the tracking of these campaigns is incredibly difficult because you always have to work closely together with the sales department. They have to ask, "Have you already seen us before? Have you heard about us?" You can have these tools, as I already mentioned in the last episode. There are quite some tools out there where you can see the single touch points of an account, but you will not see the touch points for each person in the buyer committee. Like you can see the touch points for some people. Some of them, they are not really interested in the solution, so they don't engage with your content. You don't see that. It's in dark social, so all the things that are like somewhere hidden. We don't see that. If the committee has a Teams chat where they all communicate about should we sign this deal, should we invite this vendor. So my recommendation is to have a pilot project and to go with 1.5 times the deal cycle with the pilot project minimum. You should still, I mean, that's not the one fits all. You should still question if that's the right pilot project period.
Yeah.
And then to benchmark, okay, what was actually the return on invest, but including self-attribution, so from sales, and best case, including a software where you can track the touch points. You can also do that in LinkedIn itself if you're just doing LinkedIn. So my recommendation is planning not too short term.
Yeah. And how would a really successful pilot look like for you, where you would go, we should double down here, go even bigger next time?
I recently spoke to a client and they launched a very solid demand gen approach. They ran it for 6 months and could then really trace back all the accounts that have been closed within this period. And 6 months is a very short time. Usually I see it more in 12 months.
Yeah.
So they were able to trace back the closed deals. They were able to see the engagement, and we could also show them the engagement within the accounts. And self-attributed, the sales team reported everyone already knew us from multiple touch points up front. So this was really, really good because getting the buy-in for this approach from the sales department is crucial.
Yeah.
They love it. When everyone knows them, they love it.
Yeah.
So this feedback is very crucial. And all these single factors are then actually deciding whether it's a success or not. And sometimes it takes 12 months to have a sufficient amount of these cases where you really see, okay, someone closed the deal, he was in touch before. Sometimes it takes 6 and sometimes it takes longer.
Yeah.
But I think that CEOs, if they know their company well, they typically also know well how long it will take on average to have the first touch point and then to close someone.
Yeah, they're quite realistic there.
But on the other side, what I also see is that a lot of companies, they are coming from lower funnel marketing only. They only did organic and paid search, for example. And then you have a really, really tricky expectation from what will happen in demand gen. Because in their world, everything looks like, oh, a client approaches us, we send them an offer, we have 2 calls, and then that's it. But this world is completely biased because they only see in the funnel like the lowest point in capturing the demand. That's like the last step before they do a purchase.
And even that's sometimes tricky for some companies to do well.
Sometimes, yes. But when this is the expectation for rolling out a demand gen strategy, you have no chance to succeed.
Yeah.
They will go crazy after 3 months already and say, oh, we don't see a result. And it's like, yes, because you're comparing someone who thought about this maybe for years, came through Google. You don't know that he thought about this for years, came through Google. You have the first touch point. He asks for an intro, and 4 weeks later, he signs a contract. Yeah. And this is what they know and what they learned for many years. Yeah. So that's a whole different game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely shift in patience and organization across a whole company. Less work in silos. It's can be a challenge for many companies, but can be powerful.
And it's far more important to have the right strategy. That's exactly the reason. Like when you ramp up a demand gen strategy, mostly in the field of push marketing, and everyone is aligned that it's a great idea to do this. But the strategy is wrong. But everyone is also patient. And you can do things for 12 months or 18 months and you don't see any results.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not good. But it's also the reason why we will see a big separation of good marketing versus random marketing. It's a big opportunity. It's a really big opportunity.
Yeah, I think those are some good closing words. We're already over time. I think I have some more questions, but maybe we'll do a part 3 next year.
Part 3, 4, 5. I mean, maybe we can do it like a whole training from that.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for the explanations today, and
thanks a lot, Julius.
Have a good Christmas time.
You as well.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.